Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making time to be here. I do want to say happy holidays because this is the last time that I will be hosting a show before the Christmas season as well. So I appreciate you guys carving out some time, and maybe you can use any slow periods throughout the next couple of weeks to catch up on some past Meet Me for Coffee episodes that you may have missed. This is episode 27. We recently hit our 1-year anniversary of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. So very grateful for all of you guys and your support and our listeners who tune in every couple of weeks. And we are going to be talking trade show, which is also coming up pretty soon here in the new year, specifically talking about Manifest. I just had that awesome little commercial that ran there. We have a registration code for you guys. We're going to go ahead and throw that in the comments too, and it's linked here on the screen so that I hope you guys can all join us today. But here to talk more about Manifest as we get prepared for that today is Pam Simon. Pam is the conference chair and executive vice president of programming at Connective. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on here to introduce herself. Good morning, Pam. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here, and congrats on your 1-year anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that you are no stranger to podcasting and conversations on screens and stages. And so this is just another day in the life, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, awesome. Can you go ahead and tell us all a little bit more about who you are, what you do? Obviously, we're going to talk about Manifest and just conferences and strategies and things like that today as well. But I think it's kind of interesting to hear a little bit more about how you found yourself specifically involved in the logistics side of conferences. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Of course. So, I've been working in tech, for longer than I will care to admit to. And, and I had lived in Brazil and really worked on developing what the tech scene looks like there today. When we came back to the US, I joined Lab Ventures, which is a venture studio in Miami. And we started investing and building companies in the areas of business that were dominating Florida. I'm based in Miami, which
Very
are
jealous, very jealous.
which were travel, real estate, and logistics. And as we started to do venture building, I've started and created other ecosystems and networks before. So I had said to my partners, I know my way of building and strengthening relationships within the ecosystem and bringing people together through an event. Which is how we had launched the Future of series, so Future of Logistics Tech. And it was an area that I was the most excited and interested, working in. And in December 1st, 2019, so right before the world changed, Connected acquired our Future of Event series. So now it's become Manifest. And Manifest is the only global end-to-end supply chain event.
Mhm.
We're expecting about 5,000 attendees from
Wow.
over 50 countries. And it's a full ecosystem that we bring together. From investors, there was over 150 different funds at the show this year. We're expecting even more going into the next one. For shippers, anyone that's moving goods, fresh pharma, big box, CPG, cold, you name it, they're
Mhm.
there. And then all of the different technology to help things move around the world. So as you said, it's the content side of things, and then there's an experience. So this is your time to be able to see, touch, feel, interact with all of the different robotics, vehicles, drones, you name it, as well as have some fun. It's in
Yes.
Vegas. We like to
Yes.
have it. So we have a
Absolutely. Much fun is had there. I can attest. I was there last year. It was my first year. And I think hearing you describe it now and what it is not anything like what I think a lot of us thought it was when we first heard of Manifest. And we thought of logistics tech as like, okay, that's where all the people who are creating technology and robotics are going. And there's so much of that. And it is really great. But when you said like global and end-to-end supply chain, that is really what I experienced. Like the last couple of years, I was like, everybody is here. Like it wasn't just one pocket of the industry. It was like everyone. And so 5,000 attendees, I think that's got to make this one of the largest conferences in our industry. And it's just amazing to me, the diversity of attendees and then just how like collaborative the environment was. I mean, I think that the cool thing now is like people who go to conferences, it seems to be more than like, oh, my company's sending me, I have to go. Like people who are at conferences are so excited and like ready to talk to people and network. So just so fun when you get people like that from every different part of supply chain in the same building.
Exactly. I mean, from this year's show, over 60,000 meetings took place that we know about.
Yeah.
More. But it's really a place that business gets done, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's investment rounds or partners or clients or customers, like this is Manifest is where everything really happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I wanted to talk to you about a couple parts of Manifest, and then and we're kind of talking conferences in general too. Here, we'll touch on some like tips and tricks for making the most of attending a conference and networking and meeting with people. But Manifest specifically has a lot of very prominent female leaders, which is something that I noticed too. Yourself, Courtney, and some others, and I've been excited to work with you guys as a media sponsor this year, interacting with more ladies on your team. And so that's really something that I think women enjoy and that we're looking forward to is more women stepping up and leading areas of this industry. And you guys actually do a couple of things specifically centered on women at the show, don't you? And I think there's a women's lunch and some other things. But can you kind of talk to me maybe in the few years that you've been doing this? I'm curious to understand the progression of women's involvement in the logistics and supply chain space as well, and what you guys have observed as you're hosting these events.
Of course. So, I mean, personally, through my entire career, I've really worked hard and really strive to make sure that there are more women represented on stage, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like they need the exposure. So, a lot of times, women in senior positions aren't necessarily jumping at being on stage. And I'm here to tell you that it is your turn. You do need to be on stage. You need to come.
Yeah.
So, we really have we balance out the agenda, I would say 50-50 to make sure that we have more women leaders, up on stage. And then, as you mentioned, Courtney is unbelievable and has been a champion of, helping women and boosting them in the industry for a long time. So we launched our women's luncheon, and it was such a success. Like both
Mhm.
men and women were so actively involved that we now host it on our plenary stage, because like the room just couldn't handle the amount of people from
Yeah.
the year. So we're expecting over 1,000 people to attend. We have Lindsay Kaplan, who is the CEO of Chief, as well as Rathna Shrardi, the CEO of Flavor Cloud, who will be speaking at the Women's Luncheon this year. And it is interactive. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons, that really helps, right? So men, women, you ask questions, you get involved. And so we've seen it grow, right? I mean, every year there's more and more women that are promoted to more leadership roles, and we do everything in our power to make sure that they're there.
Yeah, and give them a sense of community and like getting able to meet other people too in the industry, which is such a cool part of these conferences as well, right? As you get to meet so many people, but you also get those, a time to go to a lunch and meet people who are also interested in other things similar to you and in similar roles as well. That's really cool. So outside of just the women's luncheon there and the women's focus, which is amazing, you spend, I'm gonna guess, it's everyone thinks of a conference as like a 1 week event. They're all going to show up and they're going to do the event and then they're going to go. But I think for you, you probably have been living and breathing Manifest since a couple weeks after the close of the last Manifest. And so you guys are hearing all this feedback from the last show. You're putting plans in place to prep for the next one. And thousands of attendees last year. I think, over 4,000 last year, right? Or somewhere around there. And you guys probably do surveys and you probably get feedback and you are trying to figure out what are we doing and what are we planning for. What do you think has kind of just been like the overall tone or kind of theme of what people are looking for, do you think, as we're heading into 2024, topics that they want to hear discussed, things that trended through 2023 that they wanted more information on? What are just kind of some of the things that through your guys's broad reach you've decided are pertinent key topics for our industry this year?
So when it comes to topics, the first day of the show, our kickoff will include 3 symposiums. One will be maritime, sustainability, and intermodal.
Okay.
Those are areas that, from across the board, we've seen a lot of demand and interest from. And then, throughout the whole agenda, because we're the only show that covers full end to end, we really do dive into a lot of different areas, from visibility and, machine learning and, IoT and how that's allocated across different areas within the supply chain, to autonomous electric hydrogen vehicles for delivery, what that looks like, talking about the rules and regulations and, how to prepare for how things are changing, or, what type of lobbying you need to start doing if you want to expand. And then obviously on the warehousing side, the future of work, there is a labor shortage. So how
Mhm.
are we collaborating with robots? What are the best types of robotics and automation,
Right.
software and hardware that's fit for your company? Especially, we've seen a lot of companies that are going either through hyper growth or having to kind of scale back. So how do you address those issues from a technology standpoint?
Sure.
Sustainability is obviously, it's part of every single conversation, and as it should be. And I think there's been more of an uptick around nearshore, reshore, cross
Sure.
border, as we've seen just from the geopolitical side of things. I think more companies, it probably was number 8 on their to-do list, and now it's bumped up to like 3 or 4. Um,
Right.
so there's that shift. And then also when it comes to visibility, it's no longer just, what your company is doing, but also what all of your partners are doing, what your vendors are doing, and diversifying that in order to be resilient for any of the unforeseen, you know, climate, weather, political
Yeah.
issues that arise. So we've seen a lot from those different perspectives. As for attendees, we've definitely seen, more shippers sending their full teams, like their full executive
Okay.
team, from like the head of automation to the head of sustainability to the head of fleet to the head of warehousing. Because with Manifest, you really are able to have those conversations across your entire supply chain, right? As a
Yeah.
chief supply chain officer, you're looking at everything, but you can't be everywhere at once. So, having a few people from your team there makes a huge impact. And we've seen a lot of new business come from connections made at the show because of this.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I think, that you've had more shippers each year as it goes, and not only just like more shippers, but like you just said, they're expanding who they're bringing, because I think people are obviously starting to realize, kind of like I said, how broad this conference really is, and how many different areas of supply chain that it's touching. So people are bringing, someone from every different part of their company on the shipper side, and I can imagine that that would probably go well too for any type of service providers or platform providers. If you have someone from the tech side of your company and someone from operations and someone from sales, like it's really
It really is.
probably not one of those shows where it's like we pick one person and send them, because there's just going to be too much, right?
It's not. It's overwhelming. I actually remember from this year's show, I had run into one of our speakers from Ulta Beauty, and she had said, Pam, I learned my lesson from the first year, because it was just her and one other person. And she came, this year with, I think, 7 people from their team.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, this was so much better. Like, we were able to just cover so much more, and just have so many more meetings and connections, right? Like, from being able to go on the floor and see, touch, feel, interact with everybody, and then to listen in on different educational sessions that we have. It's really beneficial to be able to have that flexibility, and kind of divide and conquer with your teams.
Yeah, I would say that conferences are a lot of fun, and there's a lot that goes on and you enjoy it. But I would say that like conference exhaustion is like a real thing when you're there, and when you're trying to you don't want to miss stuff, and you're trying to do so much. And I can relate, having gone before, working at a startup type company, we would send like 1 or 2 people, and I'd be one of the 2. It was just like constant meetings, and like you don't even always make it to the sessions. And so I think that would be a great recommendation to people considering coming, is try to figure out if you can get a couple of people or a few people there from your team, and kind of divide and conquer the show, because there's just going to be so much going on.
And it goes for investors too. So I can tell you from the investors that came this year, there were investors that were just, taking 25 meetings a day, back to back to back to back. And because there's so many different portfolio companies there, so a lot of investors will have board meetings or offsites, as well as meeting new companies, as well as connecting with all of the other investors in the network, so that you can, share deal flow, or for co-invest together, or for your next round of funding. Depending on the level of which you're investing, if you're an early stage investor, you'll be able to connect with a later stage investor. So that way, when your portfolio companies are ready for the next round, you already have that relationship. You already have those connections, because you made that manifest.
Yeah. So 5,000 attendees. Let's talk about that for a second, in the sense that people are going, they're going to want to connect with people. They're going to hope to have meetings, hope to have good conversations. You guys obviously just aren't going to publish a list of 5,000 people's emails on the internet. I don't think that that would be something that people would love. So how do you guys help facilitate meetings, and doing it in a way that's respectful of other people's times, and things like that? How does Manifest assist in people getting to make connections with other people that are there before, during, or after the show?
So we have an incredible tech platform. Like, our team in-house is unbelievable, and we really are forward thinking in the sense of like, how can we make it as easy and convenient for our attendees to be able to create the new business? Like, we want you to succeed. I want you to succeed.
Right.
So there's a few different areas. Our app is unbelievable in the sense that you'll be able to see everybody and connect with everybody and schedule meetings within the app. So within our expo area, there's actually a huge kind of section in the middle with different tables set up. So that way, when you schedule a meeting with someone, it's like, okay, I'll meet you at table 10 at this time. So it's super easy. I highly recommend starting to schedule meetings before you get there.
Yeah.
So it's not as overwhelming and chaotic for you. Definitely recommend that. And then within our name badges, so we have technology, sort of like it looks like a little tile. And basically, if you tap it against someone else's, it will share all of your contact information and send you an email to be like, hey, you met this person, make sure you follow up. So we're doing everything that we can to make it easy for you. Additionally, there will be some new features for teams, because with more folks coming,
Yeah.
you could get a meeting request, and it could come in, and you're the head of warehousing, and you get a request for a meeting, and you're like, actually, that would be better for my head of transportation. I can then push that meeting to my transportation person, and then that way everyone is still in the loop and can know what's going on and not miss a beat while you're there. So strongly recommend downloading the app, start scheduling meetings, start reaching out to folks, as far as the technology side. And then when it comes to in person, Manifest is unique. We really try to outdo ourselves every year and surprise and delight, if you will. So we've come up with a lot of unique ways to build relationships in ways that are, out of the blue, and then you'll end up having these relationships to go back to. So from our puppy lounge, which is a huge hit, I find that very humanizing and love that one. There's rosé all day. There's a beer garden. There's a studio if you need to get, your makeup fixed up or your beard trimmed. There's a coffee lounge. There's a variety of different activities that we have that it makes it really easy for you to talk to everyone wants to talk to you. So starting up a conversation, you could even just be like, oh my God, did you see the puppy? And there you go. You can start talking.
Yeah, no, I think I do think that the environment actually contributes a lot to like just how receptive and kind of like open people are to talking with the people around them, right? It is an environment designed to really cultivate like conversation, and to make people want to connect and build those relationships. Very cool. So I'm curious, do you guys get feedback? Do you have any like success stories on partnerships or new relationships that have happened while people are at Manifest, and kind of maybe just I'd like to challenge people, my clients and just anybody I talk to on kind of on my platform from like a sales side, to really like realize how important in-person connections can be, and how much business can be advanced by being able to sit down and meet and talk to someone and connect in person. And our world got very, very comfortable with virtual and remote work, which I love. I work from right here every day in my home. So I know you and I are both fans. We're big supporters of that. But even when I was doing sales, it made a difference when I was able to meet someone at a conference and actually get to just be in person with them for a little bit and talk to them. And so I really do like to challenge people to say, hey, yes, that's true that you can still sell from a computer, you can still sell from your home office, but getting out and making connections with people in real life is important. And from personal experience, one of the things that I've realized is that it can accelerate a deal cycle or progress opportunities faster when you're meeting those people and having conversations in person. So what's maybe some feedback or success stories that you guys have gotten from people who were able to start a business opportunity with a conversation at Manifest?
So I completely agree. I think there's nothing can beat an in-person connection, right? Because you have that in-person connection, and then you'll follow up, but you have a base of like almost like a friendship or a familiarity with someone that makes it more comfortable. So it's easier to keep that conversation going. So I'm a huge, in person obviously is the way to go. Some of the success. So I would say from not the most graceful way of introducing, but I was speaking with Plug and Play a few months ago, and they were interested. They had mentioned they would like to connect with Maersk and explore some of the maritime things that they're doing. So at Manifest, when you'll see me kind of running around. I had ran into my friend, from Maersk, dragged him over to my friend at Plug and Play, and basically said, "Here, you need to talk. You need to talk. I have to run, but I'm sure you'll figure this out." And I go, and now Maersk is actually one of the biggest partners for Plug and Play's, initiative. So that was a huge thing for them. We had Maersk and the Port of Ashdod sign an agreement with me on stage, which was quite cool.
Oh, that is awesome.
That was fun. This year, over 125 companies broke news at the show. So a lot of announcements came from that. I was just speaking with the CEO of Ease Logistics, and he was telling me that they're working with Highway and a few other folks that they met at the show from this year.
Sure.
So a lot of new business comes from there. On the investor side, I don't think I'm allowed to just share everything yet, but there's a number of, it's not really my story to
We
tell.
won't get you in trouble.
You might get me in trouble, but there's a number of investment rounds that have or will be announced,
Yeah.
because of investors connecting with these technology providers at the show, as well as investors that are now co-investing together or sharing
Mm,
deal flow that hadn't talked to each other before, because it's
right.
global and we have folks from over 50 different countries. It also opens up things for when companies want to expand to other regions. Having lived in Brazil, like, you can't just take your US business and plop it there. It's not going
Yeah.
to work. You need
Yeah.
local partners. You need to understand the local culture. So those types of connections, whether it's companies that are in the US that are now expanding and doing cross-border with Mexico, or across Europe, these are also some of the types of relationships that are developing at Manifest. So
Yeah.
help your company grow globally, raise your funding, get partners, customers. It's really like an all-encompassing way to improve your business.
Yeah. I actually, one more question, because you've talked about investors a few times, and I think that that's maybe a side of the conference that I hadn't really considered before. And like those types of meetings are happening
Yeah.
in general, as you guys are prepping and you're seeing who's registering and who's planning to attend. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe people aren't as interested in investing anymore in the tech or logistics space, with some recent failures or examples of companies maybe that are being called into questioning for their financial health. But I think I spoke with Shannon, the CEO at Freightvana, a few podcasts ago, and his take was that the investment is still there. It's just the bar might have been raised a little bit for what they're looking for and the types of companies that they're looking to partner with. But what are you seeing as far as like appetite for those meetings and those conversations and investors and their willingness to still be investing into logistics and logistics tech?
A lot. I mean, there's a number of funds that are raising and will be announcing their next funds
Yeah.
to continue investing in the industry. I think what we're seeing is more of a correction, or there was like a phase where valuations were pretty bloated,
Mhm.
and a time where investors really had like to make very quick decisions. Right? You had to make, if you're going to invest in a company, it was like a
Sure.
3-week activity versus prior, making it like 3 to 4 months to be able to do the due diligence and evaluate it
Yeah.
without, I guess, as people, as the environment has shifted, people are being more cautious in the sense of taking their time to do more due diligence as opposed to just writing checks left and right.
Right.
That said, there's a tremendous appetite for investing in the space, in startups and technologies and companies in the
Mhm.
industry. We already have over 100 plus funds confirmed to attend.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a lack of, it's just
Mhm.
more, I think people are being more thoughtful, um, just more thoughtful about it.
I think that's a good thing too, right? Like, I don't think any of us are complaining. Like, that's probably a good thing because we probably could have avoided some of these overvaluations and things like that had we
Yeah.
been a little more safe a few years ago. I think it was also new, and there really was like all of a sudden a few years ago just this huge push for logistics tech and all of these different things to just come out of nowhere seemingly and start really being pushed to the forefront of the industry. And I think that what we did is we discovered all the areas and opportunities where there is relevance to the space and where there's opportunity. And you have companies now who have been kind of like that slowly but surely. They've been progressing and breaking into the space and growing, and even still new ones coming in. And I just talked to a gentleman yesterday who has a new company I hadn't heard of yet, but I got to see behind the scenes of what he's doing. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like this fits, this actually works, and it solves a need that we have in the industry. And so I think that there's still a lot more to come. And I think that obviously, just in general, when the economy is kind of called into question, or when people have some, naturally a little bit more negative sentiment, we kind of tend to maybe take kind of what we're feeling in the overall economy and apply it specifically to our industry and what we're doing. The
Yeah.
freight markets have been in a recession on the transportation or international side, but that by no means, means that everything is down, and that robotics hasn't slowed down and autonomous trucking hasn't slowed down. And there's just so many areas of this industry that even if one is slowing, the others are constantly moving forward. And so just a really exciting time, I think. And this will be
Exactly.
the perfect timing. And, start of the new year. And we all get to come to Las Vegas, and a really fun place to go, right? And see what's going on in the industry.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I have one last question for you. I'm going to let you get out of here right on time because I know you're busy and you have some other things that you're going to get to today. But if people are maybe just hearing about Manifest for the first time, maybe they heard about it, but they're like, oh crap, that's already coming up soon. Like, I haven't planned for that. What can people still do? Do you guys have any availability still for exhibiting if they wanted to do a booth, or if they wanted to sponsor or get involved? And then, registration is open till when? Just kind of what are the details?
So registration, go to manifestvegas.com. So first of all, if you haven't done that, please do so, and use the Meet Me for Coffee link, right? So then you'll get a nice little discount. Manifest is taking place February 5 to 7 at Caesars Forum in Vegas. It is the week leading into the Super Bowl, which is wild. We just love to challenge ourselves even more.
And
And
there is a golf open, I believe, in Phoenix, but I already looked and you can still make the travel work and do both. So for
perfect. So
any of
you
our
can do
golf
it all. But
fans.
I strongly recommend booking your hotel rooms as soon as possible. Our room block, we have really good rates in our room block, but I'm pretty sure as soon as we have an idea of which teams are going to be in the Super Bowl, things are going to get crazy. So I
Right.
strongly recommend booking your hotel, registering, because you need to be there. You're going to attend. So plan ahead. And then as soon as the app comes out, which should be in a few weeks, download it and start reaching out to people. Start
Yeah.
scheduling meetings. Like, this is your time. Like, don't be shy. This is where everything gets done. So
Yeah.
start scheduling meetings, reach out to people. Also talk to your networks, right? Like, all your customers and partners and investors are probably already going to Manifest. So you might as well coordinate so that way, you can connect with them in person. Because, like, with people based all over the world, when can you all get collectively together? So this is the time, this is the place. We do still have some some sponsorship availability, and you can reach out to Dan at connective.com, and I'm sure he would be more than happy to run through those with you.
Yes. And Dan is fantastic. Worked with him before in the past, so he'll definitely get you taken care of there too. Well, Pam, that is everything we have time for today. But thank you so much for telling us more about the show. I think I'm excited. I was literally getting excited talking about it today. I'm like looking forward to it. Looking forward to being there. Meet me for a coffee. We'll be there. We'll be working on some content, some short clips. So if anybody's listening would like to get involved with joining me on a short clip of Meet Me for a Coffee, please reach out. Would love to do that. And really just going to be focusing on highlighting different attendees and conversations that are happening at Manifest. And so I'm excited to be able to cover a little bit of the show and bring that to my network. And hopefully, though, my network will all be busy at the show and they'll just be watching it from the show. So thank you so much for making the time today, Pam. It was great talking to you. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us for coffee today.
Thanks so much for having me, and excited to see you at Manifest Las Vegas.
Yes. Bye, guys.